So, a while ago, we transitioned from Oregon into California.
Just try and get some of the countryside. We don't have a mic and my window's open, so the sound is what it is. But we're in Cali now. I just thought that's pretty sweet. And as soon as we crossed the border from Oregon, it stopped raining and the sun came out. I know it's hard to tell in the video, but it's kind of nice here.
And filmed our incredible Sasquatch video you may be familiar with. But before we did that, we actually stopped in the northern end of Cali in a little place called Happy Camp. I dug it there. We're from a small, rainy community, so I felt right at home. Look, here's some kind of massive parade that shut down half the town for a while. See what I mean? Small. Two things about Happy Camp, though. It's actually hella dry in the summer. Fires are a huge problem there. In fact, for at least 2 or 3 days, I remember a haze in the air, not from wildfires, but controlled burns intended to dispose of the dry brush that makes the forest fires so very bad. The other thing is pot farmers. Nothing inherently wrong with that, except that I guess it's really illegal, so if you're in some remote place and run across an illicit drug op, the crop tenders might not take kindly to you hanging around. In addition to that danger, those assholes are out there poisoning critters with nerve agents to stop them from eating the damn weed. It's getting into local water and soil, and if you buy street weed, possibly into what you're smoking. Not cool, guys. I thought you were supposed to be all chill and shit. But the drug ops are rare and usually secluded, so we did hike around a little. I couldn't help but notice all the lovely mushies coming up. Took a lot of pictures and told myself I was going to identify them later, but I'm almost as busy as I am lazy, so yeah. Here's one I'm pretty sure is a shaggy mane. I think some people call them hinkies. They're not as highly sought after as some, but I find them quite delicious. I mean, damn near anything is good if you fry it in enough butter, right? Anyway, as far as IDing mushrooms, don't just take my word for it. One of the things about identifying them after the fact through photographs is that you can't get a spore print, and it can be hard to see exactly what to look for or remember where it was growing. And unless you're super surely, really, truly, really, surely sure what you have, don't eat it. Because, you know, you could die. The best way to get into mushroom hunting is to find a knowledgeable friend or just go to the local mycology club if you have one and let them show you the ropes. It's fun, it's good exercise, and mushrooms are actually quite good for you. In fact, they've been used in Chinese medicine for like thousands of years. I've heard it said you need to cook them to get the nutrients out, but I haven't fully fact-checked that yet. One thing that's trippy, though, is that people claim, like genetically speaking, mushrooms are more closely related to humans than plants. They produce vitamin D after exposure to the sun, just like we do. And if you cut a shiitake mushroom and leave it gills up in the sun for 8 hours, supposedly its vitamin D content can go up as much as 4,600 times. What? There was a lot to learn about mushies, so here is a brief knowledge appetizer for you. The 4 main categories of mushroom are: number 1, saprotrophic. Also known as decomposers, they grow on and around decaying plants and animals, releasing enzymes that aid in molecular breakdown. They can then absorb some of the nutrients that come from this decay, while the rest of those nutrients are fed into the soil that they are helping to create. Some well-known saprotrophs are morels, yummy, shiitake, white button, oyster, and the aforementioned shaggy mane, among many others. Do note that the shaggy manes shown here are just a visual aid. They probably wouldn't grow in that environment. Far more likely to find them in a grassy field you are. Number 2. Next we have mycorrhizal types. First, let me just mention that people have found evidence of a very ancient life form called a prototaxite. About, I think, starting 420 million years ago, long before there were any trees. These massive growths, like up to 26 feet high, dominated the prehistoric skyline. It is thought that they were huge fungi, though recently scientists have noted a correlation with algae, making them technically lichens. I mention this because a lichen is actually a symbiosis of fungus and algae, and mycorrhizal mushrooms are defined by their ability, nay their need, to amalgamate with plants. They either wrap themselves around the root system of a plant, or they get built into the outer cells of the roots themselves, where they aid the plant by providing additional resources such as moisture and phosphorus, and in turn receive access to sugar. I don't have time to pull the thread of where the line is drawn between symbiotes and anthills and human cells and the mitochondria within those cells and who counts as an individual life form, but hopefully someday I'll have time to slap together a video about my views on life and how vague the definition really is. For now, I'll just point out that I read two estimates, one claiming up to 80%, the other saying up to 95% of all plants form these mutually beneficial relationships with fungi. 95%, yo. That means most plants on Earth, by far, cooperate with fungi from an entirely different kingdom of life at a cellular level. That would be like if your body contained billions of independent microbes with their own unique DNA that lived inside you and were so necessary for your health that though completely separate from you, they were literally a part of you. Which, guess what? That's totally true. Mind blown. Even though it has nothing to do with traveling, I'm going to find the time to do a video on this. When these mycorrhizal mushrooms fruit, for you see, most of a mushroom is a mycelial mat found under the soil. The fleshy part we're familiar with is called a fruiting body, and it's a minor, kind of minor part of the whole system. It's usually what produces the spores that allow the mushrooms to spread, so I guess it's kind of important. Anyway, when a mycorrhizal fruiting body appears, it can be in such delicious forms as porcinis, chanterelles, and matsutakis. Number 3. Next are the parasites. Same principle as the mycorrhizal, except instead of living in harmony with the plant life, these little buggers can spread among the roots and or up through the bark, eventually killing the host. Remember the humongous fungus from our Not Scary Things video? That was a honey mushroom, a type of parasite. Though most parasitic mushrooms don't actually produce a fruiting body, some well-known varieties include caterpillar, lion's mane, and chaga. The number after 3. 4. The final category is endophytic, or endophytic, I don't know. Though basically the same as mycorrhizal, these can be cultivated artificially without the need of a host plant, while mycorrhizal cannot. Kind of like how a gathering in Britain has to have a host to greet and tend the guests, while in America we just sort of show up and if there's beer in the fridge, we drink it. So if that didn't leave you hungry for mushrooms and knowledge, how about a brief mention of the cordyceps, lovingly referred to as the zombie fungus, which infects the brains of a particular ant species and alters their behavior, causing them to do weird things like climb to the tops of trees or cling to the underside of a leaf for days before a mushroom body sprouts out of their head. How on earth does it mind control a supposedly higher life form? What does this tell us about the nature of consciousness? Is it coincidence that a mycelial mat somewhat resembles the layout of neurons within the brain? Oh, not to mention tripping balls, what's that all about? Clearly, there is much to learn. The other thing about Happy Camp I found interesting was the little Karuk Museum. It's neat and it's free, so if you're in town, go see it. One thing in there that really catches the eye is this. Whoa! So Native Americans are Nazis? Perhaps Nazis were Native American? Actually, before he ruined it for everybody, thanks Hitler, this was an ancient symbol used in India for at least 11,000 years. It has something to do with luck and I think is still drawn on today. The symbol has been found around the globe through Europe, Asia, and America. The oldest use of it I've come across so far is a claim that it was carved on a statuette in Ukraine 12,000 years ago. Not that surprising for something to spread through culture and therefore spread also geographically across the planet, but what I find strange is the assertion that, ignoring the likenesses of Africans on ancient Olmec carvings in South America, supposedly all Native Americans came from Asia as long as 35,000 years ago or as recently as 15,000 years ago, even though Native Americans are known to have been using the swastika and the symbol is only 12,000 years old. It would stand to reason then that either the symbol is older than we thought, or humans have been coming and going to the Americas more frequently and recently than we thought. Personally, I think both are likely. If any of you saw our Kennewick Person video, you may remember that I mentioned a waterborne migration in addition to the Bering Land Bridge, which not only makes sense if you look at a map. After all, Easter Island was populated from the sea. It's not that much farther to get to South America. But also, some native legends come right out and say, we came here in boats. In addition to being a part of the fascinating origins and migrations of humankind, which I'd like to devote one or more entire videos to if I can find the time, the Karuk have a number of cool stories, many revolving around Coyote, who seems to be their chief religious deity. They are one of the largest tribes in California, and though similar to the Yurok in culture and lifestyle, their language and some of their ceremonies are unique. Cool, huh? And yes, there are definitely local native stories about Sasquatch. In fact, it seems to be kind of a theme around Happy Camp. But we're not going to do Naked Jesse again, or me commentating dressed as a clown. We can't be that charming all the time, you know. This video was more about actual nifty information. So go ahead, tell me one thing you learned. Just one fact you took away from this video about mushrooms, or Native Americans, or anything. No? Nothing? Alright, fine. Here's a picture of Chuck Norris punching a dinosaur.
Is that all you want, you Philistines? Anyway, thanks for watching.
Subscribe!